Okay, so good afternoon. Our esteemed speaker for today is Dr. Prachi Mida, and she's going to share a case of Asperger's syndrome with us. Dr. Prachi is a homeopath by choice, and she's currently located in Jaipur, practicing from a childhood home where she has relocated to after having spent 25 years away from it, 20 years outside India. She is an engineer and professor from her earlier education prior to homeopathy. She has a BTech degree in chemical engineering from IIT Delhi and PhD working on nanoparticles from University of Delaware in the US. She has worked in oil and gas industry and as a professor of engineering in Norway. She has also headed the research for genomics company during her time in London. As far as homeopathy is concerned, she has a BHMS degree from Allen's College of Homeopathy in Chelmsford, London, and has done her FHPC in psychiatric homeopathy and counseling. She has also been following and learning from several other homeopaths from India and abroad, like Dr. Shankaran, Dr. Gaurang Gaikwad, Raquel Williams, Dinesh Chauhan, Dr. Jonathan Hardy, Francis Truhertz, Anna Klekovic, Dr. Pavisha, and Dr. Satendra Joshi, to name a few. She has been practicing for the last 6 years and feels blessed to have made a positive change in several serious pathologies like cancer, SLE, autism, depression, anxiety, schizophrenia, infertility, PCOD, and many others. She is an avid learner and loves to learn and share. I'm Dr. Alka Parvati. I'm the moderator for today. So I hand over the session to you, Dr. Prachi. You can begin. We are eager to learn from you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Alka, and thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to share my learnings. And as you mentioned, I have been learning from a lot of homeopaths in India and abroad. And today I'm going to present a case of Asperger's syndrome that I could get to the constitutional remedy using the Joshi's map system. So I thought I'll share my learning in this case and how I got to it. So Asperger's syndrome is earlier used to be a separate diagnosis where the person cannot understand the social cues, are not able to fit into society, and they they are not able to connect socially. But now it's been labeled under the broad category of ASD, the autism spectrum disorders. Can we please move to the second slide? I'll start presenting the case briefly. Could we please move to the next slide? Uh, the presenting symptoms in this particular case. So we had a child who was 10 years old, and the diagnosis at that point of time was Asperger's syndrome. So the speech delay was detected only at 4.5 years, and the social milestones were not reached compared to the peer group or the similar age kids. And this kid seemed to have no self awareness. He was a 10-year-old kid, and the parents said that, he was unaware of his nasal discharge would dribble into his mouth, and he would not even realize that. He's not, even at the age of 10, he's not able to tie his shoelaces. And initially, it took them a long time with therapy that things do not end up in his mouth. Otherwise, everything would end up in his mouth. And this kid, although was in a special school, but still he was lacking focus and concentration. So I put down things very briefly to give you a picture of what I had in front of me. The next slide, please. Dr. Shreya, could we have the next slide, please? So, briefly summarizing the child's personality, The parents said he cries very, very loudly. And in the school or in the playgroup, right from the beginning, he needs a small group. If the group is bigger, then he becomes very, very anxious and nervous. And he needs support for even little things like brushing his teeth and even his basic chores. And the father then jumped in and he said, actually, more than support, he needs to feel loved. Wherever he is, if he feels loved, then he's able to try things, otherwise he won't even try. And another peculiar thing about this kid was he would not tolerate any little change in his life. If this thing had to be done this way, he was very, very routinistic. Then it had to be done that way. And then the father also mentioned that he's not very agile, and he's fixated. If he gets fixed on things, then he'll create a big ruckus. Then, for example, if you told him that at 3 o'clock we'll do this thing, if it is done a minute earlier or a minute later, he would not tolerate that. And then the father also said that this kid of ours, he creates a map in his mind, and if you deviate even a little bit from that map, then he will panic and he will go into an anxiety mode. And he gave a very simple example that they'd ordered something from Amazon, and the father had told him that the delivery would is expected on this day between this time, and the delivery was delayed. And then this guy got into panic, saying, now this has not come, now nothing will come. And he would go to extreme cases, worst case scenario. Now our food will also not come, and we will all starve and we will all die. So he would always go to the worst case scenario. And the parents told quite a few stories, and you would see that this kid would worry about survival issues whenever there is anything that. But somehow he would go into a mode or talking about food and home and security, that we would not have this. And this seemed to be a pattern in this kid. Could we move on to the next slide? Now, we all look at into the mother's history during pregnancy, and I have to say, even in pathological cases, I find it very interesting to, if the mother's history is available, to go into the mother's pregnancy and especially ask the changes that the mother felt during the pregnancy, and if there were anything, because I recently saw a case of drug addiction in a teenage kid, and the mother mentioned some kids. And it's interesting, at that point of time you have it's the mother state and the womb state also. So it is important to ask if there were any changes that she'd never had before, and also if there were any things that is in her state but was aggravated. So that can give us an idea, especially if the child is not available, is not vocal, or is not willing to speak. Like in the addiction case, the kid was not willing to talk. Anyway, so in this particular case, the mother said that she was having some issue with her periods and the pregnancy, and I've highlighted things. Please notice that the pregnancy could not be detected. And notice I would tie it with the not being so self-aware in the child. So then I said, how does that happen? Why were you not aware? And then she said, before this kid was born, I had a miscarriage, and then there was not so much clarity between what happened during that period. She said, uh, missed 3 months of periods, and something neither the father was very clear nor the mother. But it was very clear that they were looking to go for some fertility treatment, but they found out that she was pregnant already. And then the mother mentioned that she had no desire, although she was not vomiting or anything, and she didn't have so much nausea, but she did not have any desire for food in the initial 4 to 5 months. And then notice in blue, she said, this is something I had only during my pregnancy, that I had itching in my whole body and I developed big rashes with swelling. Then she also mentioned she used to be hungry in the night and her SGPT increased, and the doctor told her to watch her diet, but she couldn't. And she would eat a lot. So there was a lot of weight gain during the pregnancy because she just couldn't stop herself from eating. And I think other than that, the pregnancy was uneventful. The child had a very, very loud cry even when he was born. Yeah. So early childhood of history from the parents, we got that he doubled his weight very, very quickly. And he, despite being told, mother and father, he would not call his parents mom or dad or amma or baba or whatever, but he would, copy his parents and call them by their names. There was no eye contact. In fact, even when I took this case online, there was no eye contact. This kid was a very flighty kid and here and there all the time. And the parents said it's very interesting that he seeks permission for everything, even for things like, he's a 10-year-old. He shouldn't be asking, he will hold on to his urine and he'll ask permission before going. And when we delved into his fears, he was pretty much fearless except the dark. Of course, there was some subtle signs of his fear of being alone. And also, the father said that this kid of ours really wants to do well. If he doesn't score well in the school, then despite our not saying anything, he will start it himself on his own in the school, that my parents will be very disappointed. I want to do well. I want to make them happy. So there's definitely a trait of trying to please the parents by doing well, academically well. We move on to the next slide. So one very interesting thing in this case, a lot of times we think, that in young children it's directly connected to the pregnancy, and typically I have also seen that, male child is more like the mother, the female would be more like the father. But here, very interestingly, when we started to ask about the nature, the father took charge of the consultation, and he started to say, this, I get my child very well, he is just like me. So then, of course, then you decide, then you are not the one to decide, that you want to listen to the mother. If the father says, I get this child very well, he's just like me, you listen to the father. So the father started to tell about himself that I used to be, he doesn't have focus and concentration, but I was a very bright student. But I also had low confidence, after class 11. And the issue was I had no self discipline. And just like this child of mine, he also needs freedom. He enjoys himself more in the school because there he gets the freedom also. And he's not enjoying the new school because here he's not getting the support, he's not getting love, and he needs that sweet connection and the respect. And I needed that respect because I used to be the topper. And then the father started to talk a lot and honestly to brag about himself. Um, so he went on and on saying, that I went to this school and I went to this college. You probably know what IIT is, and this, that, and I never got through IIT. So he went on for, trust me, he went on for an hour. And to homeopaths and as a patient, it's not my place to tell anybody that I went to IIT, and I don't do that. But to this father, I had to tell him, thank you so much for all of that knowledge, but I went to IIT before I became a homeopath, because he just went on and on. He was trying to somehow tell me that how smart he was. And and then he tells me that my brother was not as bright as I was, and I made it to this boarding school, which is really like the garibon ka doon school. So I said, why was it so important for you? You've been talking about IIT, and he went to some college in Allahabad. I'm sorry, I don't want to demean him or degrade anybody. I had never heard the name, but he said it was equivalent to ITBHU. I don't know. Maybe I stayed outside India. There are other colleges, but then he said he I had no other choice but to study and to get out of because we were very poor. We had nothing else, so really had to work hard. I had no other choice in life, so to get out of this mess. And then he said, I said, well, okay, so you must have enjoyed engineering. Why did you choose engineering? He says, I actually never liked computers. And then he laughed and said, can you believe I'm actually doing the same thing? And I said, well, where are you working? He says, I'm actually working in an IT company. I'm doing the same thing to earn a living. And then he also mentioned that he struggled with language always, and that was a big issue with the child also. But then he said, one interesting thing he said that, I was loved all across and I was always supported. Otherwise, maybe I would have had issues like my child also. We move on to the next one, please. So, father's personality, a little bit from the observation and a little bit from what he told a little bit more about himself. Um, he talked about this support and sweet connection all the time. Also, what was very clear that this in this family of three, he was the primary earner, and he is an engineer. It was so odd that every time he would say something, he would look at his wife. So he was constantly looking for her validation all the time. And and then we asked him a little bit more about his personality, and he said he feels hurt very easily if he's not treated well. About him, he also mentioned that he's a very straightforward and a very, very goal oriented person. And he likes to work in a team. And right now, in the past also, he's managed teams, and he's also managing a team right now. But he said, the group really does not matter to me that much as the task matters. To me, the task is primary, the group is secondary. And then he said, I do things very, very methodically. This has to be done this way and that way and this way. And then I said, what sort of a leader are you? You're managing teams. He says, I always advise and help my juniors in technical stuff. And then he said, when I fight, and then people get burnt. And I have that capability to stand up and fight against authority if things are going wrong. And if that's needed, I will do it. And um, and then he also said, although I am an introvert and I don't reach out to people, but I would like to have infinite friends. And also looked at his fears, which was similar to the child's fear of darkness and of being alone. And he, because the child was not so expressive, so we couldn't, of course, get any idea of his dreams. But the father mentioned having dreams of ghosts and missed trains or missed opportunities, like that. So putting the father's personality, the child's symptoms, the changes in the mothers and all, I think sort of got a good picture of what we were dealing with. So here I would just take a small deviation and talk about the development levels, which have been around for a long time, and people have been using it. I wasn't sure because this is a huge group with diverse people with diverse backgrounds. So I thought I'll introduce briefly the development levels. So these levels of developments are actually aligned with the development of the human development. So the level one is basically sort of the womb level or the preconception, where the patients, would come with severe psychiatric cases. There is an estranged feeling. They're very naive. They're completely lost spaced out. Level 2 corresponds to the level of development of an infant, um, where you see an impulsive personality, who are clingy, who look very vulnerable, very fragile, and dependent. In level 3 and 4, I think we'd see a majority of us would fall in level 3 and 4. Level 3 would be, corresponds to childhood. So there would be relationship issues. So the relationship issues, because it's only in the childhood or the toddler that the child starts to begin understanding the relationships. So the start of relationships begin at level 3. The identity is developing and the communication is also developing at this level. Level 4 is the level 4 corresponding to the Calcaria line or the school age, some people might say. So this here you would see, themes of hard work, building, security, finances, bank balance, and some teamwork as well. Then level 5 is the silver series, the Argentum line. So there you see, somebody who's looking for something beyond the routine, beyond the normal. They're trying to stretch their boundaries. They want to explore different things. Here, there is a strong theme of or a connection with mentors, and also they would like to guide and mentor other people. And spirituality comes here. So there is a subtle difference between religiosity and spirituality. Spirituality actually starts in level 5. So one starts to see, when you're talking to people, you start to see hints of spirituality in level 5. And level 6, or the Aurum series, the gold line, here the personality, here you have an adult and the personality is fully developed, and you get the feeling of know it all. So now, of course, each thing has its bright side and a dark side as well. So we see themes of violence versus calm. There would be some themes of responsibility here. We could see either destructive versus extremely creative personality or traits over here. So we move on to the next slide, please. So now here in this case, looking at the pathology and also why the parents have come for this child, we see now with the Joshi's map method, what they do in every case, they like to look at the base level. So which is the basic level of the person, the problem, and the base level will typically come from the issues that the patient comes for. So and if they, for example, if the patient, if through and through in the story of the patient you are hearing relationship issues, then you know that the base level is a level 3 that I said, where the identity develops and all. So they'll be talking about their relationship with the mother-in-law, the daughter, the son, whosoever, the people around them. They become aware of the people. You become aware, once your identity is developed, you become aware of the other people also in your life. But here, the base level is clearly 2. Also notice that was the same thing in the mother's pregnancy. It was so strange, how could a woman not know that she's pregnant for a good 8 to 10 weeks? I mean, I can understand the first 4 weeks and all, but there are symptoms that develop. So it was a little bit off for me to hear that, that the pregnancy went undetected. And also in the child's behavior, the father's narration, we saw the impulsiveness coming through, the clinginess coming through. Also, there were features of vulnerability and fragility. The father was also talking constantly about support, and we could see he was looking for validation, and he was talking about sweet connection all the time, needing support. The predominant level here, which you see in a day-to-day, in their day-to-day life of the patients. So that not necessarily came so much from the child, but from the father, because the father owned up that, the child is really like me. So the father did mention that he's a very, very hardworking guy. And he said, I really worked hard to get into the college of my choice and to that boarding school that he went to. And he's very, very task oriented. But the sort of work he chose was more of a mechanical sort of work, if that makes sense. And the capacity here, notice that, the father was not limited to, father and the son both, none of them were limited to level 4 alone. The father was to the best of his capacity mentoring and guiding his juniors. And also the son had a will. He really wanted to please his parents, he wanted to do well, he wanted to perform well. So there was this willingness or this capacity to be able to do well. And we also saw a streak of level 6, which in the child manifested as, there was stubbornness, there's some stubborn traits in the child. I don't think I managed to capture that in my summary. But in the father's personality traits, it was very clear when he said, when I fight, and people get burnt, and I am able to stand up against authority. We move on to the next slide, please. So the prescription here was, the remedy given was Apis mellifica, which is the honeybee. And to begin with, a 200 potency was given to him weekly. And I have altered the potency. This kid has been with me for 2.5 years. We move on to the next slide, please. We look at the follow-up. I have just summarized the key points over these 2.5, 3 years. I have a lot more, and the parents have seen a huge sea of change. So this kid, so interesting that this kid is located in a different city, and I have never met him physically. And the father and the parents were so happy because they had been doing therapies and everything. Here I would like to say I have a lot of respect for these parents, with these with children with specially abled children. I would say that these parents really, really work hard. They leave no stone unturned to help their children. And I have a lot of respect for these parents. So at one point of time, this father actually offered, he said, we're so happy, we're so grateful, we would like to come and see you in Jaipur. And then I joked, I said, well, if you have extra money left over after therapy, why don't you transfer it to me? Why do you want to spend it on flights? But the kid has really, really done well. So much I think for me also personally, I have always been awestruck by homeopathy, but this case has really formed up my trust, my belief, and my respect for homeopathy. So in this kid, the salient points: his obedience improved, his engagement in school became better. In fact, he would laugh at children when they would be crying. And I think it was after a couple months that one of the kids lost a grandparent. And this kid was struggling because he was his support system, and that kid was not in the school. He actually asked the kid if the kid was doing okay after the death. And that was a big thing for the parents, that he started to understand the other people's emotions and empathize with them, because this kid would laugh when the other kids would be crying or getting hurt or anything, because he did not understand emotions. And over the period of this time, his dependence on the support staff decreased, and now he doesn't need a support staff in the school. His anxiety has improved so much, on little things he would say there would be no food and how would we survive, and those things. To begin with, he stopped reacting when the father would get angry. The kid would actually understand and be quiet if the father lost his temper. And a big thing came because they were traveling to hometown, to their village, and the train got delayed, and they had to wait at the train station for a good 6 hours. In the past, this kid would have, really driven them nuts and been so restless and so difficult to manage. But the parents were so surprised that they could, spend that time at the train station and the kid was still okay. His comprehension, now it's interesting, how, and that's, I guess that's how it is with all human beings, that once things get better, we forget how bad it was in the past. So now the parents complain about, he's not scoring so well in English, he's scoring only 90% in science, but his school performance is also improved. And in fact, I think 2 weeks or 1.5 weeks ago, his father sent me a video from the school where he's performing on the stage. So what a blessing! Homeopathy is truly a blessing, not only for these parents and children, but also for us to witness these amazing changes. And his fears have reduced greatly. He could never even enter the kitchen while mother was cooking. Now this kid has actually learned to operate the cooking range, and he's able to make Maggie for himself. What an amazing change! He was so afraid of fire, and now this kid is able to cook for himself. We move on to the next slide, please. So I thought I'm going to use a little bit of time to explain how I went to the remedy. So with these development and all, I think at least that is what I know, that Jan Scholten was the first person who came up with the periodic table. He drew parallels from the periodic table for the mineral remedies and the development stages. And so here's the basic Jan Scholten table where he's described all the rows. And other homeopaths, it's such a blessing, for me to become a homeopath at this time, where I get things served on the platter, where people have really done hard work and taken this work forward. From the basic periodic table, this has been extended to almost all the remedies in the plant kingdom and the animal kingdom also. So we have those basic 8 rows, and also there are 18 columns. So 18 ways of coping, or within each row there are those levels of development um, in the table. So for somebody who's very new to the system, it might be a very good idea to start with the periodic table. With others who are familiar, they can probably move on if it makes sense. And if you are somebody like me who likes to dive into everything wholeheartedly, then you could start with everything, and and help our patients to a much greater extent. So moving on to the next slide, I think I have the animal evolution here. So so everything in nature follows an evolutionary pattern. We saw the Jan Scholten mineral, the way he explained it. So we are not, to be honest, we are only looking at things and explaining. They have always existed. So it's beautiful how our Creator has created order in everything. So the animals also have an evolutionary journey. So to say, the big two, I would say, branches of animal evolution are the vertebrates and the invertebrates. The invertebrates came before the vertebrates, and you can see in the invertebrates, or in the beginning, there are these rudimentary, these sponges and the single-celled organisms. From there, in our invertebrates, we are moving to mollusks, and then there is this big phylum of arthropods. In the vertebrates, I'm not sure if you're able to see, there is fish, there are amphibians, reptiles, mammals, and birds. So, but there is a clear distinction between the invertebrates and the vertebrates. And I think I'd now move on to say how these manifest in the homeopathic sense. Um, I mean, each one of these could take few lectures, but I wanted um, to give you a flavor of everything. So this is probably just giving a flavor, and to those who understand even better than me, maybe they can give me some feedback on how to improve it the next time. We move on to the next slide, please. So the invertebrate themes, summarizing them, we would see vulnerability in all the invertebrate cases, because in nature the invertebrates do not have a backbone. So how does that manifest in homeopathic cases? That you will see a lot of fear and anxiety, and that will revolve around these survival and basic need issues. So don't just one wouldn't just stop at the anxiety and fear, but we really need to look into what is the fear about, what is the worst case scenario the patient is looking at. For example, if you remember, I mentioned this patient, even for small little things, if the delivery is not coming, he would go into that loop of, now this thing will continue and this will happen, and then we'll be poor, we'll not have any food to eat, we will not have a home. So he's talking about those basic needs being taken away, not being able to survive. So there is a lot of fear and anxiety, and especially regarding survival and safety security. And you would see that these somehow or the other, you would get that feeling that they are incapable of defending themselves. The father, who's an adult now and he's managing well in life, to be honest, but he's talking of support and he's talking of that sweet connection all the time. And despite being the primary earner and the leader of the family, he's looking for validation from his wife constantly. In their perception of the world is that it's a big dangerous world outside. um, and they're very nervous and panicky. Next thing, I mentioned that they need support, and therefore they may look as clingy. They might call the doctor or the physician repeatedly. They would ask for instructions repeatedly. They're looking for safety and security constantly. They need sort of an armor or a defense, and they seem defenseless, and they're quite they doubt themselves a lot, and they are mostly dependent personalities. And this you get from the field, if you go into different aspects of their life, right from childhood to college life, and especially because we're talking about the ASD children here, it is important to always ask the parents which one of, because the child is non-verbal, he or she is not able to express themselves fully, and that's the issue. So it's a good idea to let the parent, whosoever owns up, let them lead, rather than we tell them to tell you. I mean, at least that's what has worked for me, that I started to ask about the nature, and the father took lead, and he said he's exactly like me, and that really made a big difference for this child. We move to some more invertebrate themes on the next slide, please. They will You will get a feel, while talking to them, that they're sort of immature. They're very simple and naive. They're unable to take major decisions. They don't have a strong willpower, and the defense mechanism in most of these cases would be either to escape, to hide, or to withdraw, because they're not so developed. So, and I mean, if we look in nature, it's so sad, for these invertebrates. I don't know how, if it's the same sort of weather everywhere. It's raining like crazy right now in Jaipur, and you see all of these insects. They have such a short life. We don't even think a second, and we kill these mosquitoes and flies. So, life. I mean, somebody who's living with this state is going to be panicky and nervous, because they will be scared for their life, and they don't have any defense. Uh, So they're, I mean, they're very particular. These kids would have a lot of anxiety about strange things, about change, um, and anything to adapt would be difficult for them. Also, these invertebrate themes, they are very hypersensitive. um, Hypersensitivity, I mean, you could see in vertebrates, also in smaller vertebrates sometimes, but here you will see a hyper reaction also, that you may see noise aggravates or uh, light aggravates, but here there is an exaggerated reaction to it. uh, um so I think it is important to ask, how do you react to it? So there is an exaggerated reaction here in the invertebrate people needing invertebrate remedies. We move on to the next slide. I hope I'm able to give you an idea of the invertebrate. Again, since this kid got apis, which is under the insects, which is under the broad category of arthropods. I thought I'd put together some of the themes of the arthropods remedies. All of them need a support system. They're not. There, I would not say the personality is incomplete here. The personality is complete, so they are able to function. So this father, if you look, he's able to function well. He's able to do a job. He's able to raise a family. He's even able to guide his juniors. But they need a support system. The problem arises when they don't get that support system they're looking for. Um, and very interesting is that they also need freedom. So they do need this protection, but this protection at the same time feels suffocating to them. um, in the clinic, you would see that the people who need these invertebrate remedies, they their narration would be very structured. It would be a systematic elaboration. They talk about good and evil, good and bad. There would be no emotions involved there. It would be very technical, like a robotic sort of narration over there. And they talk there would be themes of weak and small, like the father saying, so what if there I'm able to stand up to. So there is a need to be strong. They don't feel they are strong, but they need to be big and strong. And in terms of evolution, these remedies cover up to teenage, not beyond that. We can see that that is why there is that theme of immaturity here. So up to teenage. So we might even have patients, who need these invertebrate remedies. The physical age could be 60, 70, 80, 50, whatever. But you would, once we talk to them, we would feel that the person behaves like a teenager. The way he's talking, the issues he's come up with, is more like you get a teenage sort of feel with these patients. We move on to the next one, please. So few facts about insects in nature. There are 800,000 species described. So in reality, there could be many more. That's a huge number. And there is a big range. They could be as big, an insect could be as big as a foot long, and it could be as small as the hundredth of an inch. And the evolution of the insect took at the same time, together with the angiosperms. So we do see that how they work cooperatively with those angiosperms, that they feed, a lot of them feed on their nectars. Also, they help these plants with their pollination, and they could be parasites as well. So there is theme of coexistence there. In insects, there is no internal skeleton, but there is an exoskeleton. And the chief feature that distinguishes them from the other arthropods is flight. They are able to fly. And also, there are transformation stages in insects. They go through a lot of stages. They metamorphosize to become a full adult. So that's how we see insects in nature. That is the observation that most of us know about. Let's see how we draw parallels to from there to homeopathic themes. Could we please move on to the next slide? So in homeopathic themes, or when we see these patients in our clinic, this would manifest in when we listen to their stories. Then we would get a feel of because the insects have a short lifespan. I said during this rainy season you see so many of them, and not many of them will survive past the rainy season. So in a homeopathic uh, clinic or a consultation, this was manifest as they need to do a lot of things very very quickly because there is no time, and naturally there would be an impulsivity to do many things. They want to do a lot of things within a very short period of time. There would be intense activity or hectic restlessness. Their reactions would be sudden and impulsive. And I would like to mention here there is a big difference between being impulsive and being spontaneous. Impulsive is, you get a sudden impulse and you do it, whereas spontaneous is um, when you spontaneous is has a very different connotation, that you are able to change your plans and do something. Uh, for example, if there is I'm just thinking, during crisis, if you tell somebody to change their plans and accommodate you, or maybe Dr. Rekha has also done that. That one of the speakers had some emergency at her end, and she asked another speaker, or she presented in her place. So that would be said, that would be a spontaneous reaction, and that's actually a strong personality. Whereas impulsiveness is, you have an urge to do something and you actually act on that urge. So those are two very, very different things. So the theme of work and industriousness comes in these insects. We see these insects, for example, these honeybee. They are so busy making the honey, working tirelessly. Or even if you see the ants, they are working tirelessly. But here, what you notice also, we notice in this particular case, in the father's narration, that that he's working in a group, but he said the task is more important. So the work is more important. Work is something that gives them identity. They cannot, I mean, they think they are here to work. And their working style would be very, very business like, more methodical. They'll come across, these personalities will come across as unemotional, robotic, and fastidious. And also you might or may not, but you might be able to see some themes of transformation and metamorphosis. For example, here the father said he had no choice. He really had to work hard because he wanted to change his environment, he wanted to change his circumstances, and his environment. So he worked hard and went to that Garibon Ka Doon school, and then he really aspired. I mean, he did want to go to IIT. He did work hard. So what if he didn't make it? And he's doing a decent job. I think he's taking care of his family. So there is this need to transform and metamorphosize. We move on to the next one, please. So there would be conflicts and confusions we might see, not which was not the case in this particular. There might be some confusion about their identity, their sexual identity. You might see forgetfulness. I mean, we do see that in the ASD, the whole spectrum, mixing letters, because these people are not able to understand gray areas. They see things in black and white. Just either something is good or bad. They are unable to see, which may also translate that it's very difficult for them to adjust in life, because they can't understand the gray areas. They're typically very ambitious. Prestige, honor, or respect is very important. The base level being 2, or the infant sensual gratification is very important. in these remedies. Also, for insects, there is the theme of showing off is a big theme, and there could be high sexuality in these cases, which was a very subtle thing in the particular case that I showed, because I found it difficult to find determine if how long was the period between the two pregnancies. So there was definitely um, probably a bigger urge on either side of the partners, but let's not judge them. But this was going to help the kid, so was taken. Now, these insect remedies need to be differentiated with a couple other remedies that we have. Um, we definitely need to differentiate them with the minerals of row 4. And in fact, to be honest, a lot of my other insect cases, I have probably given them because there was not so much clarity to begin with. I started with the mineral of row 4. Um, and then let the patient, the circumstances, and the follow-ups, and eventually God lead me to a better remedy with time. uh, so the main issue, or the issues that you will see in row 4, and the issues will be confined or limited to safety and security, right and wrong, whereas in the insect cases are much more than just row 4 mineral issues. We saw, this immaturity, we saw the sensuality, we saw the gratification, we saw the ambitiousness. So there were multiple things that came up, and the issues were not related, not limited to row 4. Next one, please. We also need to distinguish our insects from the spiders, which both of which fall under the arthropods. So the spiders have just 2 parts of the body, whereas the insects have 3 parts in nature. Okay, so I'm looking at nature, and in the next slide we'll draw parallels, or we look at the homeopathic themes. The spiders have 8 walking legs, whereas the insects have 6 legs. So we see spiders are slightly higher or further in evolution compared to the insects. But the insects have the ability to fly, which the spiders have very limited or no ability to fly. So we move on and look at the homeopathic distinction between the insects and the spiders. Next slide, please. So spiders, we'll see they are not, our insects are impulsive, whereas the spiders are mischievous and teasing also. The insect reactions would be sudden and impulsive, whereas the spider reactions are more violent. So you will see breaking of things, throwing of things more rather than impulsive. Spiders, having said, the spiders are little further in evolution, they have the ability to plan, whereas the insects are very primitive and they work from their impulses, on their impulses. Insects work, they live in groups and colonies, whereas spiders are mostly loners. The desire for dance, loud music are more of spider themes and not insect themes. And also, thermally, the insect remedies are mostly hot remedies, whereas the spiders are mostly chilly. We quickly distinguish them from the birds also, whereas no, rodents first. Both of these rodents are these, living, the who make their burrows, the rats, the porcupines, the squirrels, the rabbits, uh, the skunks. So both of them are jittery and restless, and both the groups need activity and safety, and both of the group of remedies, they do feel small. Now the rodents are psychotic because they want to go back to home to safety, whereas the insects are tubercular. They like to be out and enjoying, and they're more tubercular. There is more need for activity, restless activity, which may be fruitless activity. And I mentioned rodents belong to the mammals class, so vertebrates, so they're more evolved, more intelligent, and we would see a lot more mammal themes in rodents. So they would talk a lot more about relationships, the maternal instinct also. Similar in DD, I mean, if we distinguish them from the birds, the only common thing I see is that both have the ability to fly. So the tubercular element would be common to both. But notice that flight is a birthright in birds, whereas the insects have to go undergo a transformation or to metamorphosize to be able to fly. So that will somehow become clear. In the insect cases, you will see that in the bird cases, you will see the often the issue is that they're denied freedom, whereas the insects are looking to escape from either, they would say we're trying to escape from this dirt or shame. And birds, I said, are far more evolved, just like the mammals are also, and they're both vertebrates. So you'd be able to see, from the narration, that uh, they are a class apart. I think I have another slide on a little bit. So now we have, among the insects, there are 5 different orders of insects. I just put their names. We'll quickly go on to the themes of the Hymenoptera, to which the honeybee belongs. Could we move on to the next slide? I'm just being mindful of the time. So these live in colonies, and social status is important to them, and it is important that they work in a team. They coordinate and cooperate with each other. Um, they are focused on routine work. They are more structured and organized. These personalities could be workaholics, and they are conscious of their duty. So they could make good parents. Being duty bound may not necessarily be loving, but they would dispense their duties very well. Apis is a well-known remedy, has been around for a while. So I only put few of the things that were clear in this case, the mind being irritable, nervous, and fidgety. And he laughs at the misfortune which we saw in the case. I think, I'm sorry that I forgot to mention that this kid would laugh when he would see and also, in fact, very interestingly, the parents said, on one hand, he wants to do well and perform well to please us, but once, as he grew up, he got a 0 and he was laughing when he got his exam paper. This guy was very clumsy and awkward, both the father and the son. And physically, there is rash with edema, which we did not see in the child, but interestingly, the mother mentioned having itching and rashes with swelling during her pregnancy, which she's never had either before or after the pregnancy. So that there was a cue over there also. Let's move on. I said I'll talk a little bit about the map system by the Joshis. It's a very methodical approach, if any one of you is interested. It has really helped me in my practice because uh, I mean, to begin with, Jan Scholten has had his approach on the periodic table, and it was important that we get some sort of a map with the other remedies also. It's so easy. I mean, at least it was easy for me to get lost in that jungle of materia medica, and this map system is so organized and has really helped me. And I mean, I can say I'm very happy that I became a homeopath much later. I probably would have struggled, as many of you would have and might be also. So this is developed not just by drawing parallels, but also the clinical results and uh, clinical results verified by the clinical results by the Joshis couple. And they have put a lot of free webinars on their website, and many of you could benefit if you want from the map system. I noticed that it's past 4 p.m. I do have a few slides which I have sought permission from the Joshis on the dietary tips that they have been giving to their patients. Maybe we can go have the participants go over this later. And I think there has been a lot of discussion also, very healthy discussions on the group also, that it's important. And I think this runs across for all of us. not just these children, but for us also as adults, and a healthy lifestyle, that we reduce stimulants, including tea, coffee, and soft drinks also. Somehow the culture in India has really changed. Growing up, I remember, it used to be a big treat, and I remember myself planning that there would be a wedding, and I would go there and I would have a thumbs up. But now it seems we have these soft drinks so easily available, and that is doing something to our health. The refined sugars, they need to be reduced. The starches, so many of these things were made at home early on. I don't remember growing up with a ketchup from the market, but that has become a thing now. Chocolates, again, encourage gluten-free diet, especially with the children who have, because these kids not just come for these the spectrum disorders, but also a lot of them have GI issues also. So it is important to, uh, a gluten-free diet helps these children. Moving to millets, and I saw there was a big discussion on the millets. Um, Also, interestingly, the Joshis have been teaching making khichdi to a lot of people out of India, and we are aware of khichdi, and that's a wholesome meal in itself, to be made with ghee. Of course, the rice that could be used could be the unpolished one, the brown rice, or the whole grain one. And it is always a good idea to have a variation in diet to improve the gut biome, include more of the vegetables, the fermented food, the cheeses. The next one, some more tips: increased fluid intake. That does not include juices, please. We have to, fluid intake could be increased either through water or through vegetable soups, or maybe encourage more foods with more liquid content. Like cucumber is a great snack, and I do that. I have been doing that, and for my own children, and I encourage a lot of girls who are coming for PCOD. I mean, it is natural to be hungrier and have those pangs during your periods, but it's so important to have those cucumbers or carrots or broccoli stashed in at that point of time, rather than having these cookies and cakes available. To increase the amount of fiber, we see a lot of constipational issues. Those can be handled well with dates, prunes, and beetroots. Coconut, including coconut, is a great idea. Bananas is a great source. Walnut shells uh, is a wonderful source of omega 3s. You could always also advise fish or olive oil. But in Indian cooking, let me tell you, in Indian cooking, nothing compares with ghee, coconut oil, and mustard oil. Those are the ones, and we need to stick to our roots and to go back to our ancestors and cook the way they did. So, uh, having lived abroad and having lectured by people in the gym, and being told that ghee is the best. So, yes, our ghee is the best. And of course, coconut oil and mustard oil, they are probably not aware, they are equally good as well. Then foods that are rich in inulin, garlic, onion, and greens, magnesium, bananas. Also for probiotics, yogurts, kimchi or kombucha. Kimchi and kombucha I would leave for the other people. We could look more at dahi and chas um, for our children here. Um, does that bring me to the end? Yes. How can I forget acknowledging my teachers, mentors, and my patients who put so much trust in me and come to me, shared their stories with me. And a big thanks to all of you who've given me this opportunity to share my learning. And I would also like to thank Dr. Mahesh Gandhi, from whom, under whose guidance I did my FHPC and learned the personal evolution model. I would like to thank Dr. Bhavisha Joshi and Dr. Sachindra Joshi. I've learned a lot from their map. For this particular presentation, I also referred to Peter Fraser's book on insects. and the November 2014 issue of Spectrum Homeopathy, which was dedicated to insect remedies by authors all around the world. And I would also like to acknowledge Dr. Ghanshyam Kalathia's book on arthropods that I referred for this particular case, and my knowledge of insect remedies. That brings us to the end of my presentation. A big thanks to all of you for listening patiently, and I'm happy to answer if there are any questions.
Yes, very nice presentation, ma'am. Are there any questions from the audience?
I'm open to feedback as well.
Ma'am, I would like to ask if at all we have to learn this MAP method, are there courses offered by Dr. Bhavisha and Dr. Sachin?
Yes. They, I would say, begin with the free videos they have on their website. Then they also have recorded courses at different
Okay.
levels. And once you feel comfortable, they also hold these tonics every month where they share a case and you're supposed to work on that case, and then there is a discussion. So at all levels you can learn from.
Okay. So I think there are no further questions. Thank you so much, Prachi ma'am, for sharing your knowledge. It was really wonderful listening to you, and we hope to learn much more from you in the future sessions. Yes, thank you so much, audience, for being there with us. Yes, meet you all
Thank you
again
so
for the
much.
next session. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. It was such a nice session and uneventful this time.
Yes,
Yeah, I was really
we
upset.
were prepared this time. I would say
Yes,
we were prepared this time, so I already sent the presentation to you.
yes,
I
thank
will
you.
probably have to look in. Maybe I need an update to be able to share my presentation.
Yes.
We'll have that in place before the next presentation.
Yes.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for this opportunity, and thank you so much to all of the people for listening so patiently. Thank
Thank
you
you.
guys, and bye bye for now.